Hey, everybody, welcome back to Pop Culture Warrior. I am your host, of course, CQ. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a very special guest joining with us. She's a diverse Emmy nominated actress and an Emmy Award winning voiceover artist who understands the power of persuasion and connecting to the audience with empathy and authenticity. She's given life to iconic characters such as Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid, Poison Ivy in all of the Batman stuff, including the Arkham series and more, and numerous characters in Star Wars and so many other incredible franchises. We have absolutely no time to waste. So let's dive into her fascinating journey in the world of acting and voice work. Please welcome the incredibly talented Tasia Valenza, everybody.
Woo! The crowd goes
That's
wild.
right. They're screaming. Tasia, Tasia. There it is. All right, calm down. Everybody
Thank
calm
you.
down.
Thank
Settle
you.
down.
Thank
Settle
you.
down.
I receive. I receive.
I thank you. I thank you for the love. First off, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We've met in person previously at the last MGS Con. I know currently this is pre-recorded, so upcoming we have MGS Con. We're both, I'm sure, very excited for that. But the fact that you come here and we can talk about your incredible career, I'm so excited. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me because I remember meeting you last year and we talked about it and then you reached out and I was delighted to be able to join you because I just watched some of your other incredible interviews and so for me it's equally delightful to be here.
Awesome. Don't make me blush, man. I blush too easy.
Oh, go
So,
on, take it. Receive it. Receive it.
okay. So much like we do with every guest, the first portion here is really getting to know you, getting to know the person behind the characters, behind the voices. And obviously, we're military affiliated, we're pop culture affiliated. What's your military connection?
So, I have 2 practical ones and then a little side one, but, my father was in the Korean War, and he served there, and my cousin, Brian Valenza, I'm gonna shout him out because he's super cool, and he's, a Navy SEAL, a former Navy SEAL, and served valiantly and brilliantly for many years, and so I remember when he was 2 years old, and he was this crazy little kid that was full of muscles over. I was like, and my poor aunt was always like, he was getting into everything, and it said, what was this kid gonna do? And then when I heard he was becoming a Navy SEAL, I was like, yes, that makes sense. So he is a great man and a great warrior, and still serving his country through his connections, and he's wonderful. I'm very proud of him. And on the uh, I played one on TV. I played a before I was a voiceover artist. I was an on-camera actress, and I played a yeoman purser in the series Super Carrier. For those who saw it, and there might be 2 of you out there, because it was a short-lived series that came out right after the first Top Gun, but I was literally on a super carrier, the John F. Kennedy, for like 6 weeks and out to sea. I think we were out because they had to go out, and we were just like hanging out doing it. So that was pretty spectacular, just as a life experience, and appreciating these very hardworking. I think it was only men at the time. I'm not, but back then, yeah, because that it was amazing to be a witness to these jets and coming on and going off, and it's just I feel very lucky because I so appreciate learning about it while I was trying to become it. And so it was a different kind of a connection. So I have that much more appreciation for what you do. And I also just want to point out, I just read the book, The Women, which is a powerful, fascinating book about women in Vietnam that were nurses.
Oh, wow.
And this, you take out, there's one character and you go through her life and you see what she went through to be a nurse, and then coming home, what all these vets were going through and how they were vilified. And it was just a very powerful reminder of something, again, that we're mostly ignorant about until you get to read something like that or go on a ship, if you're not directly involved. And I recommend this book to anyone who wants to share that in the military with somebody who's not been in the military,
Mhm.
especially from a female perspective. It was very powerful, and I'm still quite affected by it because she went from this, like, very privileged life to serving, and then loving serving, but also suffering from PST
Yep.
trauma, and the experience post war where she wasn't even acknowledged because she didn't serve. They kept saying you didn't serve.
Mm.
So that was something that was just very meaningful recently for me, and I'd love to shout that book out and have anybody and
Absolutely.
everyone read it.
Absolutely. We'll put it on our must read list for the audience. But yeah, I mean, we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that time and what those people went through, and God forbid them. But anyway,
Yeah.
we have you here, and I want to talk about
Yay!
you. So give us an idea. What kind of things do you geek out about right now? What are you geeking out about?
Well, um, in terms of like my newest, latest, greatest like passion, I would have to say it's a little off the beaten path, but it's e-biking. I am my husband and I just celebrated our 25th anniversary. We were married when we were children. And instead of rings, we said, let's get e-bikes because, we want to further our health and our excitement of life and joy together and stay healthy. So we thought, let's do that. And I have to say, we got these specialized bikes that are mostly really bikes with just a little power as
Hmm.
opposed to like the big heavy ones. And it has sparked a joy in me because I already love biking, but let's face it, it's like when you go those hills and you're like,
Yeah,
it really
exhausting.
takes some of the fun out. So now I'm in that, like, I feel like I'm actually an animated character because like now I can go up. I'm a superhero. I can make it up these hills. So we've been exploring places, going to different areas that we never have before, and seeing even LA, on a bike, because it's different from walking or driving a car, right? So when you're walking, you walk very little in LA. And then when you're driving, you're just whizzing by. So now we found all these paths, and
Mhm.
we're going to different beaches now. And I feel like not only more alive and more joyful, but I feel like we are making a concentrated effort to spend more fun time together and increase that childlike fun that we all have experienced as children on bikes.
That's, man, you're doing it right. You're doing it
Yeah.
right. That sounds wonderful. Just as an aside, I find it so fascinating where like you can live in a place for so long and not know what's like on the other street.
So many streets,
And
so
so
many
you
streets.
until you're walking, you're biking, whatever, until you're there, and then you go, oh wow, this was here, and oh wow, I was there, and
So many neighborhoods and so many bike paths that I didn't know existed in LA because we never had a reason. But now, you wander and you meander. It's like, look at that. And it feels like being a tourist in your own city. And also just, being outside and the freedom of a bike, because you feel that childlike wonder because you move fast, and there's this wind, and to increase that is great for your endorphins. It's great for your physical health, and it's great for that sense of novelty. So I really do recommend, if you like biking, you'll love e-biking, and if you don't like biking, try e-biking. Maybe you'll like it.
right, you can. I'm sure there's a rental place. You can rent one, and
Yes,
try it
we
out.
rented them for the first 2 years, and this was like a commitment of like, what? Let's do this for
Go for it.
ourselves as a celebration of our marriage, and get healthier in the process.
That's awesome. Love it. So give us take step with us back in time and take us back to young Tasia, right? Like what were you like before the glitz and glamour, before the Hollywood, before the many credits to your name? What were you like before all this?
Well, I was born on a rainy day. No. I'm not going to bore everybody, but I'm a New York City girl. I am born and raised in New York City. both my parents. My mom was from Brooklyn. My father was from the Bronx into Brooklyn, and they were both actors before they had me. My mother was a singer and an actress, and then my father got practical and opened up a restaurant. So I was born to a restaurateur. So I was a hostess and I was a waitress, and so I paid my dues. But I was definitely a lover of acting right out of the gate. I probably came out singing "I Gotta Be Me." I have a yeah. I was ham from day one. I was just boom. And I have a twin brother named Tor, so that's cool. And he is a wonderful writer, podcaster. Right now, he's focusing on solar, and he created this combination of love of teaching people about solar and his writing background. So he's got a wonderful podcast called Almost Mostly True Solar Stories.
Mhm.
So I have a twin brother, and I was like bitten by the bug really early. My mom would take me when in my teens to extra work, which is like background work in New York City. And I would do all the school plays and camp plays, and I always got the lead. So it was like kind of like determined to go in that direction. And then I got a movie. I got a movie, like really one of those crazy stories that you hear. I was one of them where I was actually cutting school watching All My Children when I was 16 in junior. And of course, that was the one day I was cutting school, only one.
Just that one.
One day. And it just happened to be the day that my mom was going down to an open call in backstage newspaper for uh, a role that they wanted a Latina woman. And she went down there and I said, "Hey, well, bring down my picture because maybe there's some extra work." I didn't really understand how it worked. I went to Seduto's Ice Cream to scoop some ice cream, and she called me up and said they wrote the wrong age. There's 30 women down here, and they said they need an ingenue, and I took your picture up and slapped it down, and the cast director wants to see you. So I got on my blackest, thinnest outfit, and I ran down there and I auditioned, and they liked me, and they said, "Look, we're going to fly you out to LA tomorrow, but you'll be back either the next day or 6 weeks from now." And I said, "Oh, great." I said, "Who's my love interest?" And is it Scott Baio? Because he was really popular. No, it's a guy named Sean Penn. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Spicoli from Ridgemont High." Okay, well, that's going to be a challenge. I'm sure if I could be in love with him. So I flew out the next day. I got the part. I didn't go to school for 6 weeks, which was really fun. And that started my acting career. I came back and I was in this movie called Crackers, which again, maybe 2 people or 3 people saw. But Louis Malle directed it. He was a famous French director, and it had Donald Sutherland and Jack Warden and Sean Penn and Wally Shawn and Christina Baranski. Incredible. Donald Sutherland, incredible cast, and me. But it didn't do that well. It was like it was a sleepy little movie based on an Italian movie called Big Deal on Madonna Street. But by the 6 months later, I was then on All My Children. Ironically, I was cutting school out, and look, the craziness. I ended up on All My Children, and I did that for 3 years, playing Dottie Thornton, and that was kind of like my trajectory.
Not to mention an
That,
Emmy nomination for, that's
yeah, well, because
nothing
I
to sneeze
cried
at.
well. What can I say? I was a pretty messed up teenager, so it was like easy for me. Little did they know, I was like, they knew, but I was always crying about something. So I was just taking my real life into my acting. But that was a great experience, and it was a great experience too. To be perfectly, transparent, I really was in that, like, I'm a star and my shit doesn't stink. And then I got fired, essentially. I got fired, which is in the soap opera world. You have to sign on for 2 years, but they can let you go every 13 weeks because of storylines. And so they had just re-signed me for 2 years. I only wanted 1 year. They said 2 years. And then like 13, 14 weeks later, they were like, "We're going to write you out." So that was like a wonderful, horrible at the time, um, humility coming of really, like, really getting like, hey, my shit does stink. And this is actually a great opportunity for me to learn the hard way, sadly, that you got to be nice to people on the way up because they'd be nice to you on the way down, be more humble, all the things that fast fame doesn't always teach you. So I had to start all over again. I came out to LA and I had to start waitressing again and scooping ice cream and demonstrating naked juice. And so after being a celebrity on television, I had to go back because I didn't save my money. So, it was it's the cautionary tale of yes, too much too soon. And I just wanted to share that because I think it can happen. And
Valuable
it was a
lesson.
really valuable lesson that I, to this day, am grateful for because I had a much better step up the right way, as it were, and which made me a stronger, better, more disciplined, and
Sure.
more appreciative person.
And I think, I mean, all of that is so spot on. And I think just as a lesson for everyone out there, no matter the age or the industry or the experience, whatever, it's that sometimes we have these devastating low points, that in the moment you're like, man, life can't get any worse, and
Absolutely.
I'm on the straight shot down. I'm on, and like all these negative thoughts, and there's
Yes.
no way I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then years later, we look back and go, oh man, I needed that. I
Yes,
needed that to be where I am today and to be as strong as I am.
absolutely. That's a beautiful, and I wanted to share it for that reason because if you had asked me at that time and, a good few years later, I would have been, that sucked. That sucked. But I'm very grateful for that because I was not headed in the right path, and mentally and emotionally, and I took too much for granted. And it was, again, when you're a teenager getting that so quickly, it's really messes with your head. And I think, of course, that's why this is one of the reasons I call myself a recovering actress and a fully voiceover artist because you're damaged. I'm damaged goods, but but voiceover saved my life. So that was another transition from on camera to voiceover. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but
Oh, we will. We will
yeah,
get into it.
but that,
Absolutely. But real quick, obviously the reason I asked you to come on too is, we're promoting MGS Con, which as of weeks ago has been sold out, which is phenomenal. What an awesome thing to say that this silly little convention that's just passionate fan base,
fan created convention.
fan created convention that people, I was there in its inaugural year last year,
Yes, you
and
were.
people around the world were coming for this. And
Yes.
like, wow. I mean,
We were all
there's
shocked. I mean, we were all like, this is amazing. And Amanda, shout out to Amanda who created this and Vanessa who really facilitated it. She is awesome.
absolutely.
But I want to say it was a beautiful coming together of so many loving people who wanted to support this effort. And the fact that we're a year later having the MGS Con 2, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, what was, because we're gonna talk about that for a second. We're gonna take a break for you for a second. I'm gonna let you cool off. Uh, what
It's a lot. It
was,
was a lot. I was like, oh God. But
what
only a few
was
minutes because then I want to talk about me again.
right, of course. Uh, what was your highlight, your takeaway of the first one, and what are you most looking forward to this second go around?
The highlight, gosh, there were so many moments when we did the panel and David and Jen appeared, Jennifer Hale. That was awesome because it was a surprise because they couldn't make it.
Yep.
And then we had the panel and it was full and we were talking and then boom, it was just so great for the fans to get a chance to see them as well as all of the other ones. So that made me really happy because of course, it was hard to do it without David because he's Snake and
He's the
but so it was
namesake of the convention.
yeah, so to have him there was a thrill to see the fans get a chance to interact with him and Jennifer Hale. And then I would say meeting the fans was awesome because they were all, when you go to most cons, there's like a smattering here and a smattering there, and they're interested. Everyone was there, and we were all celebrating this one wonderful game and the series and the characters. And so the energy was so electric because even, right, they would go from my table then to another one, and you could just feel the love. So it was really wonderful to have that concentrated energy of the fans. And it was so, and I really loved the intimacy.
Yeah.
I liked that it was
Yeah.
small because it was the same thing. In these big, huge cons, it feels a little frenetic and chaotic, right? And
Yeah.
and to know that everybody was there for that reason, and that you could meet everybody and not feel exhausted by the process, it was really gratifying. So I loved those aspects of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then looking forward to this year. What's the
I
excitement for it?
am looking forward to like just multiplying that because I think it's still relatively small. I mean, it's still, I think they sold out at 700 or 800
Something like
or
that. Yeah.
so. I'm looking forward to that. And I feel like this year it's going to be just even more grandiose in terms of the artist alley. I mean, they have great artists, and they had great entertainment and cosplay, and it's just going to be just even a more magnified version of what it was, but still really connected and familial. And I know I'm going to see you there, so I feel like it's still like in this burgeoning. I don't know what it'll be in 10 years, but right now it still feels really wonderful, intimate, and celebratory.
Yeah, it's very grassroots, man. It's very guerrilla,
Yes.
which I love, and I mean this in only the best way. Now, your answer was wrong because the correct answer was the best thing about last year was meeting me, and you're most looking forward to spending time with me. But it's
Oh, did
okay.
I not
It's
say
okay.
that? Did
We'll
I
fix
not
it in
say that?
post. We'll fix it in post. We'll fix it in post.
Did I not say that's
Say
the
it
first
too.
thing I meant to say? I think I just telepathically
Right,
meant,
right.
and I just forgot to come up. The best thing about last year was meeting you,
There it
and
is.
then everything else I said.
Okay, perfect. See, I'm going to clip that section that is going on social media. Just me. Uh,
I love you. But you know what? That was great. It was just not, it wasn't, truthfully, it wasn't long enough.
it wasn't. It was. You know,
You were busy. You were running around. You
we
were
were
all over the
all
place.
busy. We were all
You were
busy.
all over the place.
It was such a cool experience. And let me say that this is coming from someone who maybe other than you who does conventions as a career, I go to a lot of conventions. I cover a lot of conventions all across the Northeast, Florida, California, Texas, and they're all great for lots of different reasons, right? We love our New York Comic Con, our San Diego Comic Con. They're massive, they're huge, and they're spectacles in and of themselves. But I think you're so right in that there's something so intimate, so connected in these smaller ones. I do another one called Shore Leave, which is very like Star Wars, very sci-fi, or Star Trek, very sci-fi oriented. And when you get these small pockets of just really, really passionate fan bases, it's
Yes,
something
the passion.
special.
It
It's
does.
so special.
It
Um,
does. It feels different. It feels like more like because everyone's there for the same reasons, and so the energy rises because it's not dissipated amongst different. Which it all has its place. But you know
yeah.
that I have a Star Trek connection, right?
I mean, I've done my homework. I've done my homework. So
So I always like to say I'm all over the stars. Between
oh,
Star
babe.
Wars, Star Trek, I
You are in
definitely.
all the I think you're missing like Lord of the Rings and like Harry Potter. That's about it. You've been everywhere else pretty much. So we appreciate it. Marvel, DC, all of it across the board. But yeah, so it just very excited. This MGS, obviously David Hayter's going to be there in person. You
Which
got,
is going to be like a whole nother level up, and so many more of the actors
Phil
are.
Lamar and a number of incredible actors and voice talent. And I'm through the roof. I think they nailed it so well in the first one, and I'm so excited to see how it grows this year and continues to grow year
So
after
let me
year.
ask you, because I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but
Yeah, please.
tell me and us, because I know some people didn't know, what is the Wounded Warrior connection to MGS Con? Let's hear it.
Oh, okay. Well, oh my God,
Come
I
on,
was
you're on the
I'm
spot. You
not
can do this. You can
prepared.
do this. You can do it, Mike.
No, so it's a great thing. I mean, Wounded Warrior Project is a phenomenal nonprofit organization. I've been a Wounded Warrior since 2005, and I kind of trickled into the organization around 2000. I captured like 2007, but started getting really involved with them in 2009, and have been so blessed. I've been so blessed to. I mean, they've helped shape my life in so many ways. They have incredible programs for employment. Like they gave me, I was a high school kid straight into the military and then dumped out as soon as I got injured. And I didn't know how to write a resume. I didn't know how to apply for jobs. And so they helped me with that. They bought me my first suit, the first suit I ever owned in my life. Because much like
Wow.
you, I grew up a New York City kid. I was inner city, Upper East Side, Spanish Harlem.
Wow.
So I never owned a suit. So they helped me with that. So they got me a great job. They provided me opportunities to reconnect and support groups and just incredible programs. Help my wife and my kid. So it's an incredible organization. And then when I found out, because I had Vanessa on the show,
Vanessa
and
Marshall,
Vanessa
amazing.
Marshall, phenomenal, amazing person, one of my favorite people ever.
Yeah.
And we got to talking, and she mentioned, "Hey, we're doing this MGS Con," and she brought up the fact that there was a connection. They wanted to do this silent auction and raise money, and it was like a stream they were doing, and a bunch of different things, and the money was going to go to Wounded Warrior Project. And I said, "Oh my God, I love Wounded Warrior Project. It changed my life. It saved my life."
Hmm.
And I got introduced to Amanda, and we just got to talking. And I said, "Hey, man, I would love to just come out and support any way I can." And next thing I know, I'm the Wounded Warrior Project ambassador at MGS
Woo!
Con. I feel
Which
like
is so cool.
I'm the guy
So
in the
cool. And
parade.
forevermore will be the Wounded Warrior Ambassador
It's
at the
it's
MDS Con, which is
it's so
super
good.
great. And really is a hats off to you, dear. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Wow, she
Hats
took
off
her
to
hat off for
you.
me.
Hats off to you, my dear. Yes, I'm not bald. A lot of people think I'm bald because
Yeah,
I always wear a hat.
it's
But
okay. I am. It's fine. It's
oh,
fine. It's okay.
okay, I'm not and you are. I love that. Hats off to you, my dear, that you
Absolutely.
reached out and said I wanted to be part of this and to continue uh, the awareness of this incredible program because again, it's all through awareness that it can grow. So I think that it's wonderful that you participate and we, make it a strong point and that you're the guy. So good
Appreciate that.
on you. Good on
Enough
you.
about me, though. We're not
Oh,
here to toot
yeah.
my horn. Uh,
You deserve it.
speaking of it, I love the fact that we've talked about what you anticipate. We're since this is going to air afterwards, me and you, we're definitely going to shoot something at the convention, and I want to tack it on to the very
Cool.
end of this interview. So stay tuned, people watching right now, because at the
Stay
end of this,
tuned.
we're gonna do a little time jump, and like we'll be all
Sniper
sweaty.
Wolf is going to be sharing some information.
There you
I've
go.
got you in my sights.
I love it. I love it. It's so easy. It's so you make it seem so easy. That's the thing.
I like what you said. You make it seem so easy. It's
You
like
make it
30
seem.
years in.
You were an overnight success, a 30-year overnight
Overnight.
success. So one last question about just conventions in general, because you had mentioned something to me and it made me curious. Is there anything, obviously a lot of people will come up to you, "Oh my God, I love your work. I love this. I love that. And I'd like to give you a gift." Like, is there anything that you were ever given a gift that just kind of blew you away from a fan at a convention?
Oh, that's so sweet. Gosh, I've met so many wonderful fans. Uh, and I don't do as many conventions as I would like because I was not able to, but I'm hoping to do more of it now that my kids are out of the house. I'm like, yes. Uh, I've gotten some really wonderful images, like different versions of my characters, and just the little gifts that I've had that I bring home, and I put them in a category of Sniper Wolf and Poison Ivy, and people are so generous at conventions where they're asking you to sign, but a lot of times they want to give you something that they've made homemade and I feel like I don't have my collection on my brain, but I really appreciate when people make me a little gift, tchotchke as it were, of the character and say that it meant a lot to them at different times in their lives. So yeah, I don't have a story but I definitely have a little box of all my gifts from there, and I love fans that are just so open and genuine and really just want to connect and say, it's such a gift to have someone tell you a story that you had no idea might have occurred by something you did or something you said, as even as a character. And that we know that it's really very little to do with us because it's the writers and it's everybody else, and then we get the credit, but it shouldn't be, but it is still very meaningful and makes what we do for a living feel more important than what it really is, which is just lending your voice to wonderful
Oh,
cartoons. It
on
makes
the
it feel like it's more
contrary,
impactful,
I'm
right?
going to disagree with you. I think it's incredibly important. I think, you never know, for you, what's a day in the office, right? Getting behind the mic, laying down some tracks, but the people on the receiving end are sometimes in the worst situations, and this is their escape. Or I can think of movies and TV shows that I love that I took on deployments with me to combat.
Mhm,
So when I'm
mhm.
having the worst day, I'm putting on my favorite episodes of The Office or whatever it is, and it's important. And you never, I'm sure you never realize until you get those interactions just how important and how you connect with other in these people's lives. And I think it's so amazing. And the fact that someone is gonna go, oh my God, you're a celebrity, you're a big deal. And I all I can do is I made this thing, and this is all I can give. But this is just my way of saying I love you, thank you for what you've done. It's such a cool thing. I
It is, it is.
love it.
It's a humbling thing because again, we don't really realize that, we've made that, and maybe, the word is impact. Like
Mm.
we made an impact in someone's lives that we didn't know, and they can tell us a story and it makes your heart, feel like so full because you touched another person, you touched them and they let you know it. And that's really, at the end of the day, what I believe we're all meant to do on this planet is to love
Absolutely.
and touch one another in a positive way and leave the world a little bit better for going in and when we leave.
I love it. And see, and the comedian me was like, look, you touch so appropriately touch people,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I didn't want to
Completely,
step on your
completely.
line.
Yeah, you got to be very careful nowadays, right? That can be taken out of context, and now I'm in trouble.
I tell you. Uh, so I mean, you've had such an extensive career on screen in front of the camera as well as the voice acting. I'm always curious because how do those two very different things differ, and kind of how do they also complement each other when you're performing?
Good question. Well, definitely, I feel like my on camera career helped me to be a better voice actor as opposed to voice artist because I was already an actress. And although I have to say, when I went into voice acting, I was joked that I was calling around. My mother told me, my wonderful mother who got me into acting also told me I should do voiceovers, and then I had to take classes. But the first time I called an agent and someone gave me the name, I was like, "Hi, my name is Tasia Valenza, Emmy nominated voice actress from All My Children, and I'm like an agent, And she said, "Oh, great, great. Here's a number." I was like, "Oh, is it for another agent?" And he said, "No, it's for voice acting classes, which you need because it's a craft and it's its own thing." And I was like, "Really? But did you hear my voice? It's Tasia Valenza." So anyway, I had to go and
I
take
love it.
classes for 2 years, make my first crappy demo. And then, once I signed on with an agent, it took me 6 months to get my first job. So I always like to share that story too, because it was probably like 3 to 4 years from the time I said, I'd like to be a voiceover actor before I booked my first job. And I thought I had a really cool pedigree.
Of course.
But it wasn't, it still was its own thing. Now, from that though, once I did get into it, the acting, just the ability to jump into a character, to understand emotions, how they're feeling, especially when it came to animation, because that was like just at the beginning of video games, I'm really old, and so some of these were, I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm gonna throw out Leisure Suit Larry. Anybody? Oh no, Annette Boning from Leisure Suit Larry. So I mean, I was starting to play these characters that were kind of rudimentary, and the beginning of video games really getting bigger, but it was so much fun, and I loved being able to jump into voice acting. And this is probably a good time to segue into, what's the hat about, Tasia? Why do you always wear a hat? I'm glad you asked.
I'm very good at this.
You don't even have to interview. You don't even have to speak. I'll just, you just throw it in me. But I was always told so many times as an actress, they liked you, but you weren't tall enough, thin enough, blonde enough. There was always that but. And so with voice acting, it was like we get to be unleashed from the box that society puts us into, and the acting puts you into, because it's important to look what people have the idea of the role. So, I made my first like emblem, this, because it all became about the mouth, the voice, what can be done. And all of this got to disappear. So that was really fun, because there were so many roles that I got to play as a voiceover actor that I was totally, ousted as on camera, because I just, they didn't buy me, or, all those extra elements of the visual that kept us from being able to do things that we could do with our voices. So the on camera was great, because it taught me to be a really great actor and play different roles. And then the freedom of not being relegated to a body has always been like my passion for voiceover, because it really it unleashes the imagination and our creative juices. And I'm sure you've met so many voiceover actors that they get to play a myriad of pieces. So it's wonderful that you get both sides, but the acting, and nowadays they want actors more than voiceover actors. It's kind of swung the other way. They would prefer you to have no voice acting experience and be an actor, and just, so it's an interesting cycle that we are in that area. So luckily, I still feel it's been helpful that I have the acting background, but it is an interesting time that, natural, and actors. So is that too much information? I think so.
No, not at all. I love the realism. I love the look. This is the good stuff, but this is the real stuff. This is the bad stuff. This is the true stuff. This is the stuff you don't hear about and see about and talk about. And I love that. That's what I'm all about. I love that you mentioned, this idea of like, oh, I want to be a voice actor. Well, I just call up a thing and I audition, I get a job, and I'm a voice actor. And it's like, there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it. I've had so many people come up to me and they're like, oh, this guy and that guy. Like, have them put a call in for me. I've got a great voice. I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, you got a great voice, Mike. You got great. You could definitely throw yourself in the.
So next month, you're gonna get me a gig, right?
That's right. I got a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend, and you're in. You're in.
There's so much that goes into it. I mean, it's.
And this was 25 years ago. That. So it's even harder now, just because, I mean, in one way it's easier, because we're definitely, you're not relegated to New York, Chicago, LA.
Right.
So there's much more opportunity, but I used to say it was a lottery of like 100 tickets, like for the concentrated group that we were in. And now it's a lottery of 50,000, and social media is part of it now. So it's not just about who you are, but how many followers you have, because it helps with the advertising. This is all part of it that, I've seen over the period of years. And, at first I was fighting. I was like, well, what is this hashtag? It looks like a pound sign. What, and I was so late to Twitter. I was like, this is silly. And then of course, once I was on there, I was like, oh, this is fun. but it literally has changed the game for the better, and, in some ways for the worse.
Sure. I mean, obviously, and I don't want to sidetrack us off you, but I mean, what with the writer strike and the actor strike and all these things that were happening and fighting, because for as much good as social media will do and technology will do, there are those that are going like, ooh, ooh, I don't have to pay people to do this anymore. I can get AI to do it. I can get, this or that. I can hire some kid from Pakistan to write a script. Like, and so I think you hit the nail on the head in that it opens the doors for, you know, little old Mary from Idaho can get seen on social media and they're like, oh my God, you've got the look or you've got the sound, and give them that opportunity. But then that also means there's 5 million people with opportunities.
It's
You know,
changed. It's definitely changed. So it's, but it's like anything, we got to adapt. And, I feel very lucky to have I'm still in the game after all these years, but it's something I don't take for granted. And also, I've been teaching as well. So that's,
Mhm.
you have to kind of figure out how to branch out. I know Vanessa's been doing a lot of us are doing many, many things.
Sure.
L'Oreal, and I mean, there's great talents, and on camera and there, as an actor, you have to be nimble and you have to be creative and you have to continue to reinvent yourself.
Absolutely. And I think as because you're basically an entity in of yourself. You are a business. You are a brand of
Yeah.
yourself, and you go, okay, well, any brand, look at Blockbuster. You know what I mean? Like if you don't
Blockbuster,
evolve.
that was my first, commercial I ever booked was a Blockbuster, so that's funny
I
that you
did
just
my
pulled that up.
research.
People might say, "What is Blockbuster? What is
Like,
Blockbuster?"
exactly. But that's the thing. If you as a brand don't evolve and branch out and change and adapt, you
Yeah.
go the way of the dodo. You're out of there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm all for, obviously we've seen a lot of, comedians and actors and celebrities who start a podcast and a clothing brand and we got the rocks, whatever it is, tequila or whatever it is. And like, and I get it. It's like awesome, man. Anyway, because we all know it could be gone, like this. And so to be able to support yourself outside of that, I think is an incredible thing. And you have such a wealth of knowledge and experience to be able to teach the next generation and like look,
I
this is what I
love
learned.
teaching. I
It's
love
amazing.
teaching. It is another way to give back and say, "Look, this is what I have learned, and this is something that," and I believe every teacher is a wonderful way to put another tool in your toolbox. So, what I offer is different than from what a teacher offers. And it's just something that, uh, if you make your own system, you just like, I like that part of that teacher. I like that part. And then it becomes your own method. So I think teaching is a wonderful way to, extend our careers and express our creativity and also give back, like, hey, this is what works for me, see if it works for you. I always try to bring a lot of joy to my teaching and make it very childlike and fun, because the last thing I want to do is make someone feel intimidated by the process, because I kind of grew up doing it more from instinct and learning on the job than I did because I started so young. And I think there's a lot of joy in that and power to that, like not thinking too much in your head, because we get too much in our heads. So my whole platform is this Give Great Voice platform, which is really about, taking the parts of you and all the roles that we have inside of us, from podcasting to
Mhm.
wounded warrior ambassador to husband to father to friend to pop culture icon, to and channeling that
Right.
into our characters. So that's how I teach that. We have a multitude of parts of ourselves, the multidimensional parts of ourselves, and sometimes we just have to realize that and access those parts, and then we can channel those pieces to play characters that we might not think that we have anything in common with.
Right. Right. Well, you convinced me. I'll be taking your classes. Guys, you can see me in the next big, I don't know, Call of Duty or
There you are.
Metal
There
Gear
you are.
7. I'll be
You
up here.
you you definitely should. I like to call it, have you dipped your lip into a class ever?
I mean, we'll talk offline. We'll
All
see.
right, all right, all right. But
But
I recommend everybody to
sure.
have the experience, even if they don't want to be a voiceover artist. The nice thing about online classes now is that you can also, again, get to a class. I haven't taught in a while, but I do teach from a wonderful portal, Real Voice LA, and they have great classes that are online. I know they have in person now, and but you can have the experience of just playing and seeing how it informs your ability to do whatever you do in real life with a little bit more joy, a little bit more confidence. So I recommend it to everybody, even if you don't want to be a voiceover artist. Take a voiceover class. It's like, or an improv class, something that helps you to feel more confident and give great voice, which is what I like to say, because that means to be able to move, touch, and impact with your voice.
Outstanding. And we've been talking for 45 minutes and we haven't even talked about your characters. I mean, that's like, don't get, I'm enjoying the hell out of this, but we got to spotlight.
I'm sure someone's going to be sleeping by now. So I'm sorry. Wake up, guys. Wake
No,
up. We're getting to the
no,
good stuff.
not my audience. They are like face pressed to the glass right now.
Oh, I
Okay.
hope so.
You have voiced so many truly iconic characters in shows and video games. We got it, well, because of MGS Con coming up. It's the first one on my mind. But let's talk about Sniper Wolf for a second. The original
Sure.
Metal Gear Solid. That character is something that's unique to me because it's one of the few characters that doesn't get a lot of screen time, doesn't get a lot of character development and an arc and these things, yet is still one of the most talked about characters, is still a character that people, for some reason, are so connected with and has had a legacy far beyond, her one little appearance. What is it
Yeah,
about that character that you think resonated so deeply with fans?
that's a great question. Uh, I would say, and again, just like I played the role and I didn't get to see my work as Sniper Wolf until, I don't know, 10 years later on YouTube.
Wow.
And the death scene, and when I saw the death scene, I was like, "This is so sad. This is awful. This is so painful." And so it was one of those things of like, because I think what they did so brilliantly for many of the characters, and they continue to do, is give them three dimensionality, three dimensions, or war that, a sniper, boom, 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 which was so many of the video games that you had no connection to their humanity.
Yeah.
Once you find out why they do what they do, especially for her situation, you're so moved by the pain of their own suffering that you can at least have empathy, or not even empathy, sympathy, but you can feel the pain. And I think that's, again, very relevant for vets and people that have gone through traumatic experiences and are fighting to stay alive in their minds. So I think that she represented that she seemed like she was this, snarky, killer. And then all of a sudden you find out her very traumatic story, and you felt for her. You felt, what I've heard from many fans is they felt so bad about killing her. They killed her, but they felt
I mean,
bad
you
about
got to
it.
do it. You got to do
Right,
it.
but they had an emotional response,
Yeah.
which they had not. So that's my thought, that she evoked that. And certainly when I saw that scene, I was incredibly moved, because I and the music and David's character. I mean, it was so beautifully conveyed. It was really like watching a movie, and investing in a character that you thought was one thing and then realized was another, and you just felt much more compassion for her.
And I have to say too that I played it when the first game came out, and that was at a time, for as far as technologically advanced as it was for its time. I mean, it's still a polygon mess. Like, it's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
flat surface. And what wows me about that game, and all of you incredible people that voiced it, like, in my memory, it was as if watching a movie. And like, you
Oh,
look back at it now, and it's basically
I
like
know.
posters just moving around. But you guys gave it such life through the voices. And it was such at times it was outlandish and cartoony, but it felt like it was taken seriously. That's what it
Right.
felt like, that
No,
there was seriousness
they
behind it.
did such a great job with it, and the writing and the storylines. It was fantastic, and seems to be one of those games that, changed the course of video games forever. Uh, and I, hats off again. But it was, as an actor, really wonderful to play. But I didn't really see the result until years later because I wasn't on, I don't even know if there was social media back then,
Right.
and there wasn't. And then by the time there was, I was on to other things, and then
Sure.
I found out like, oh, you can see this. And David was one of the ones who said, this game is huge. And I said,
Yeah.
really? It is? He said, yeah, it's huge. And I said, cool. And he goes, you want to watch the, I said, really? How do I see that? What's YouTube? Okay, I'll go. I know it's hard to like imagine it, but remember way back in the day that, there was we didn't take all of this, all that we're doing right now. This was the Jetsons. And, we didn't, I grew up with the Jetsons and you could see the face. I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy that you could see the telephone call and there's a face. So, we take it, what we take for granted. We
Absolutely.
couldn't back then. So it was phenomenal to be able to see it. And then having this resurgence now with a whole new group of fans because of MGS3 and the reworking of it and the remastering of it. It's
Yep.
just really, really wonderful to grow with the franchise and to see, more people connected to it and why it was so special.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions was just that, you know, did you think, and we're not going to age anyone here. So
Too late.
sometime after the game came out originally, here we are years later, still talking about it and still talking about your performance and David's performance and all these people. Christopher Randolph was incredible as Hal
Yeah, and
Emmerich, and
Chris Zimmerman, shout out to the director, Chris
I mean,
Zimmerman, who did such a
it's
phenomenal job of voice directing. And
incredible,
yeah.
incredible. Like, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that this character, this series would still be as mainstream, as popular, if not more so today than back then?
No, I mean, that we didn't know anything back then. That was the whole thing. And we're actors. We go on like, okay, here's a role, and then and back then, for a long time, you didn't find out much about it in that way because you were just on. You weren't. There was no any portals unless the game sold so much and somebody said, "Hey, I love your game," but we didn't have social media to tell us that this was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because it was going to get to more people and more people were going to have access to the dimensions of it. So yeah, it was definitely a surprise, a wonderful surprise. And I can't, what can I say? I'm so grateful because as actors, I know we love to be loved. So, bring it on.
Do you look
Bring
back
it
and
on.
do you look back and be like, man, I wish they didn't kill Sniper Wolf. She could have been
Oh,
in
every
two
day,
and three and four.
every day. Hello. I'm miserable about it. I was like, damn. I have to
We
say, this is like another one of those offshoots, but I have been killed in so many of the things as characters I've played on camera. I have died as Shaq T. I have died as I just died recently in the Bad Batch as the governor Tawny Ames. I get killed off a lot.
Poison
So
Ivy, I think, right?
don't
Didn't she die
Poison
in
Ivy,
yeah, one of the games? Yeah.
Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of used to it, but like I don't understand the karmic thing about it, and I'm hoping that it's just for my characters because I get killed off.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Some people are just good at what they do. They
Yeah,
they
maybe
have
I'm
a
just
niche.
really good at 20-minute monologue, and
Oh
then
God.
I'm dying, but no, let me tell you one more thing.
One last thing. One last thing. And then die.
That actually is one of the funny things about that, the Sniper Wolf monologue. It goes on a long time.
Well, people don't realize how long it takes you to bleed out. That's the thing.
That's
It's
right. Well,
just the
see,
average person.
you would know that better than I. I don't know. Like, we probably don't want to go down
We'll,
that
we'll
path,
talk
but
about that later. Yeah, it's a real thing. And again, we're running short on time, and I don't want to hold you long. But Poison Ivy, another one that your voice has almost become synonymous with Poison Ivy. I mean, I checked the IMDb page. You've done the character for like 10 different projects. The Arkham series, and was it like the Lego series and a bunch of other things. What is it about your voice that you think people are like, oh, Yeah, Poison Ivy. Like that. What is it? What
Mm.
is it that you bring to that character that's so different? That's so interesting for that character?
Well, it's the Tasia effect. It's all I can say, Mike. I don't wanna boast because it's really not my thing.
Mm.
No, you
Perfect.
know what? There have been so many great I mean, no, I know that there was so many great actresses playing it, and for me, it's like anything. It's like anytime you get to play some character that's iconic, I'm fangirling myself. So, if I could say anything, I would like to think once again that and it's not I do believe so much of it has to be the credit of the writing
Mm.
because I can bring that sensual, sound and be very but the fact that she has more going and she ended up being a shiro
Yeah.
in Arkham Knight is that it brings other elements than just the seductress. Like, why is she a seductress? Because she's trying to save her plants, and this is the way she kills her foes that are harming her plants. So the seduction isn't just because she's seductive and she's drawn that way. That's one dimensional. She's seductive because she's a
Yeah.
mama bear, mama plant, and she needs to take care of her babies and protect. She's Mother Nature.
Mm.
So I'd like to think that I bring that through the character, and it shows up in her voice, but also shows that she's not just the one dimensional and that she's got reasons for what she does and that you can hear the pain in her voice when she's talking about the trees that have been killed and how important it is to save the planet and ultimately sacrifice yourself for
And I think,
it.
and by no means let me mansplain you the character, but I, I do think too. There's elements of Mother Nature is beautiful and dangerous, right? It's
Very much.
something gorgeous can be deadly. I think there's the psychological of she knows how to use her charms, her femininity to be a weapon. She's using it as a tool to get to these people. So there's so many layers to her, and I love that character. I think you did her beautifully. Again, just a testament to how great of an actress you are that they had to kill you, because
Right.
you're too good. You're too good
There's
as an
something.
actress.
Do you see the through line here? That there's something. Sniper Wolf, Jack D,
I
Poison.
promise you won't die at the end of this episode. I promise.
Thank
We're not
you.
going to kill you off.
Thank you. Let me live, please. Let me live. It's
I mean, again, and we don't have enough time to talk about all the amazing voices you've done and characters you've done, but you've also done numerous characters in the Star Wars universe. What was that experience like? Were you big into the kind of the story before getting involved, or was it just kind of like, oh, here's another gig, and I'm just gonna knock it out?
Oh, I was a huge Star Wars fan because of, just the age that we got to see the first movie was, life-changing, altering. So, yeah, I mean, I was so thrilled to be and not just in the Star Wars universe, but a Jedi. What? Come on. I will never be that cool. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome to be able to play someone much wiser and cooler than I am. Ask my husband, but it was really a thrill. And actually, in video games, I played some of the other characters too that were from different aspects. But Shakti was definitely the first like, wow, I am getting to play a Jedi. So that was tremendous. And then to play Vanessa Doza, who was the first mom badass warrior, was phenomenal. That was in the series. Not the oh, gosh, like my brain is like on.
I have it.
On
I have it here somewhere. I know I kept it
I
in my
don't know.
notes because I know you've done Star Wars Resistance. I think that was
That
a
was it. Star Wars
series.
Resistance. That
Bad
was it.
Batch.
'Cause I was going to say Rebels, but that was Vanessa's. There's so many R's. Star Wars Resistance was a
That's right.
wonderful show that I got to play this great character, this wonderful, strong, powerful woman who was a warrior but also a mom. So that was really cool. And then recently I got to be in the Bad Batch, which was phenomenal. What a
Yeah.
an iconic series that is. And Governor Tawny Ames, who was fierce and killed. Benicia Dosa wasn't, so the show was canceled, but she lives on.
When
So
you need a woman
yay!
killed, you know who to call.
Thank you.
And there's
Yeah, I
also the
feel
Star Wars Old Republic. You had multiple appearances in that as
oh
well. And
oh Cleo DeJanis, she is a feisty, fun character that I love playing because I just think of her as she's she is a ballsy ass, like more of the, the Han Solo kind of a character where she's in control all the time and just a witty, but she's definitely cheeky and fun and a different character that I got to play. And she didn't get killed off either. So yeah,
had
I
a couple.
thank you for
Had a couple.
reminding me. Let's hear for Kaleo and Star Wars: The Old Republic because she's a fun companion.
Yeah, and just so people understand the breadth, I mean, games like the Elder Scrolls,
Ah,
the Ben 10 video game. I'm looking through like the gamut, Obviously, anytime Poison Ivy appears, so like Injustice and all these games, Lego Dimensions, World of Warcraft. I mean, I saw on there a game that I loved when I growing up. Sorry to say it like that, but what was it Crimson Tide? It was
yeah,
the airplane
Crimson
Betty.
Tide. You
Uh,
played that game. You were the one.
Absolutely. Let me say I played it way longer than I should have, honestly.
Wow. See,
Uh,
now nobody ever talks about Crimson Tide. So I always love it when a fan will come out of the woodwork and say they saw
Loved
me
it.
in something or they love my game. And I was like, really? That's
Wait,
so cool
wait, I
because
was in that?
yeah,
Wait,
it
I did
actually
that?
sometimes is. And I have to go back to my IMDb. I'm like, oh, check it out. Look at that. Because
That's awesome. Well, I
the old
mean, when you're
90s
like, oh
basketball
yeah, I
system.
remember you in Duckman, and you're like, wait, what? Was
Oh,
Duckman?
that was one of my favorite roles because I got to play a
Bernice.
femme fatale in an animated series, but I was on camera because it was a fantasy that the character was having. So I got to play like a farcical femme fatale. So that was actually cool because I was doing more animation at that time, but I got to go back on camera and play that. So
There you
definitely.
go. I mean, I was looking through, and we're gonna wrap it up here because I've kept you long enough. But I loved looking through your kind of your history, and I saw you had done an episode of Batman the Animated Series
Yep.
well before Poison Ivy. So it
Yep.
was such a cool thing to see, like kind of coming back,
Yes, so
going
it's fun
from
to come back in a different iteration and a different way. I mean, even with Star
exactly
Trek, where I got to play
Star
a
Trek.
Vulcan, Tashanic,
Absolutely.
and coming of age, and then on Star Trek Discovery, I got to be the computer of the
Mhm.
Shenzhou, which, by the way, by the way, got blown up, got blown up. And when I found out at the third episode when I was filming, doing voiceover, I was like, "What do you mean the ship gets blown up?" He was like, "Oh, it's going to be the Star Trek Discovery." I said, "Well, can't the computer go forward?"
Yeah, just put it on like a little
No.
thing and then plug it into the other
So
one.
so I will point out that my computer got killed.
Mm.
So I'm not joking when I say that I get offed a lot, even as a computer.
I mean, hey, when you're
What?
good at it, get use it.
There you go.
Oh
Well,
man, there's a famous saying. It's like whatever you're good at, make sure you get paid to do it, or something like that.
right.
Where
Well, I get paid to die well, I mean, it's humorous, but you got to see there is a pattern.
there's a pattern. There's a pattern. But well, you play some really good badasses
Thank you.
who they can't survive because they're just too awesome.
They're too oh, I
So
love
they
how
got to
you
get
frame
wiped off
that.
the
It's
board.
just leave them isn't there the saying, "Leave them wanting more."
Leave them wanting more. Exactly. And that's that. I think in the case of Sniper Wolf, I mean, I still see people the cosplays and everything. I'm like,
Oh gosh,
that's
the ones
wow. That's a
they're
testament to an incredible
amazing.
character for sure. I want to give you the last few minutes here. Promote anything you'd like to promote. Tell people, what's your social media? How can they follow you? How can they support you? How can they reach out to you?
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, I'm pretty much Tasia Valenza everywhere. On Instagram, Twitter, and I'm on TikTok. I don't do a lot on TikTok, but Instagram and on Twitter and Facebook. And basically, if anyone wants to follow me, I do like to give voiceover tips and help people give great voice. I do have a wonderful TED talk that I love sharing because it really is my version of how we can translate being a voiceover actor in your own life so you can use the tools to play your personal and professional roles more successfully, because I think our voices, just like this, are the most powerful, impactfully, emotionally connected ways to share ourselves as opposed to our digits and texting and writing. So I'm, big into that. So that's a TED talk you can watch for free. And I'm also into self-affirmation,
Yes.
because to give great voice, we have to start with ourselves. So on my website, Tasia Valenza, you can find affirmation meditations that I made that are completely free, and you can listen to them, and they're 10 minutes, and it's just a nice way to take a moment out for oneself and to practice saying what's very hard for a lot of people to say, is that I love myself and I believe in myself and I I am wonderful, without thinking that it's cocky or arrogant or
Sure.
so I'm a big proponent of practicing self-love, because it's not easy for everyone, and I think we're trained mostly to think that that is, arrogant, and I think if we could reframe that, if you fill that cup with your own self-love, you have so much more bandwidth for others. And certainly with vets, what they have gone through and given of themselves to their country, they absolutely should be replenishing that supply. And it's wonderful through other people, but no more important than yourself. And I think the voice, not just thinking it and seeing it, but to say it out loud, is a really good thing, because the most important voice you will ever hear is your own.
Oh God, I need to clip that, and that's going to be my daily affirmation right there. That was beautiful, well said. I will link to the site because I think it's incredible. I think more people need that. I think we'll be nicer to each other if we're first nicer to ourselves. And
100%.
I thank you for all your compliments because I've always hated the sound of my voice. So
Oh, you have a wonderful
I
voice. It's wonderful and energetic and fun and feisty, and you're just no, take it. Oh, and great. We're going to show the audience. Thank you, Tasia. I received that.
Thank you, Tasia. I received that. I have a great voice. I have a unique voice. I'm good.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
not to mention, it's just your energy behind it. That's what I teach with Give Great Voice. Because if you said to me, or I said to you when you got on, "Hi, Mike, it's really great to be here. I'm so excited."
Yeah.
Would you believe me? I
Yeah.
mean, that's
You're
the thing,
right.
is like you bring such fun and energy and appreciation and levity, that to me is what I want to tell people is what connects to the heart. I mean, if it's what is a perfect voice nowadays, right? It's not even like there is no perfect voice, and we can't all sound like Morgan Freeman. But bottom line is, it's really the energy that you bring to your voice to stay connected that really touches the heart. And I want to say you do a fantastic job with that. And I want other people to know that their voice doesn't have to be perfect, but to have their beauty and their love and their kindness and their confidence, to know that their voices matter, is
Absolutely.
more important than the sound of it.
We all bring something special and unique, our own experiences and everything. And I couldn't agree with you more. I'm gonna give you the last few seconds here to say goodbye to our wonderful audience and just all the vets out there, all the military out there, and then we'll let you go.
Great. Well, I think I've said enough, but I will just say thank you so much for your hearts and your souls and your loyalty and your dedication, and your service and your courageousness, because really we are so blessed to have people that will give themselves for our country and for people. And I don't take it for granted, because I feel like where would we be without you? So thank you. Thank you. And please know how valuable you are as individuals, and feel confident to start doing that for yourself, because one of my favorite sayings is, whatever you say after I am or I have, with consistency and conviction, tells your future. So what do you want your future to be? You deserve the best.
Mm, 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 Beautiful. Outstanding. We can't do it any better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the incredible Tasia Valenza. Follow her, like her, support her. Go back, buy Metal Gear
The fans
Solid.
go wild again.
Everybody, I can't hear over the raucous applause, and
It's
it's so
crazy.
loud.
Oh, no more, please, please. I can't take it. I can't take it.
We love it. Thank you so much. This isn't the last time you've seen her because we're definitely going to bring her back in the future.
Oh, thank you.
We
It's been
can
a
dive into
wonderful. It's
so
been a
much more.
pleasure to be with you, and thank you for letting me give great voice today.
Awesome, guys. All right, we're going to say goodbye to our guests, and we'll be back with more show right after this.
Let's see it.